Hey guys, Bicebump here, bringing you another Dragonflight Frost Death Knight video. Today we're taking a look at a plus 23 Ruby life pool where I'm running the two-hander Obliteration build. The reason I think this specific run is interesting is because I just do so much damage, right? I've been thinking about, which dungeons are better for Frost versus better for Unholy, right? And I was like, okay, Frost is going to be the low target ones like Quarter Stars, there's going to be Shadow Moon Burrow Grounds, Temple, right? Those kind of dungeons. But trying out Frost more, right? By the way, those were triple 340k or blitz. Anyway, trying out Frost more, I feel like there are now the group of dungeons where Frost does comparable, even better damage than Unholy is larger than I initially thought. Right, I think this dungeon I will end at around 125k overall damage, which is a very large number, specifically when I compare it to what I can do with Unholy. To be fair, you can see up there, I do have a Shadow Priest there, and he will allocate the Power Infusion to me, which obviously will help a little bit. But still, I previously thought that Unholy was the play for Ruby life pools. I don't think that's the case anymore. Especially the fact that 2 out of 3 bosses are 2-target cleave bosses, where Frost just does really well, good damage. Anyway, this video we're going to talk about the talent build, some gear, stats, that kind of thing, and then I'm going to talk about the rotation, and then we'll follow up with just commentary of the run itself. In the meantime, up here I have a D-Test plugin. This is the button I'm pressing currently. So if you wonder what my rotation looks like in reality, just follow whatever comes up there, yeah? To start off, we have the build up here. This is the very standard two-hander Obliteration build. I feel like this is just by far the best one, and it works the best in the absolute majority of circumstances, right? You can see we have picking up Frosty Fury. We want that 3-minute cooldown to align with our puzzle box, right? And that just means we have very big burst windows every 3 minutes, which is very good. All right. There's, sometimes you don't pick up Anti-Magic Zone. I do it here because it's quite good on the first boss, but you can skip that and run Permafrost instead for some better, survivability, personal survivability. Other than that, it's really quite locked in stone. You can also do what's it called? Unholy Endurance, that's the one. The Lichborn one, you can replace that with Deafening Gale Slow, for instance, if you need that, for instance, during Spiteful Week, or if the tank just needs to kite. When the tank gets that dot, that's a stuff thing, I don't know. Anyway, trinkets, puzzle box, right? That's what we want. There are comparable unused trinkets you can use, but, puzzle box just fits so well into the Frosty Fury windows, right? That is just by far the best one, I think. Second trinket, get some passive, Hunger Pack, Icon. Those are the 2 best one, I'd say. For the stats, I think you should aim to have a very balanced amount of crit, mastery, and haste. You can see currently, my stats up here, right? So I got 4.4k haste, almost 4k mastery, and 3k crit. The crit there specifically is, I'm able to get that because I run the Corruption Vial, right? That gives you loads and loads of crit. And after this key, I also pick up Hunger Pack, which means that I have nearly perfect 4k of each stat. The reason we do that, right? Okay, so the stat weights for Frost Obliteration is that in single target, haste is generally the highest one, followed by mastery and crit. Whereas in AoE, mastery and crit is a bit more valuable, right? A balance, therefore, a good idea to have, so that you deal both good AoE and single target. And furthermore, your stats don't really matter that much. People generally overvalue the importance of having your perfect stats, but it's not a huge percentage. Like if you go optimal stats to non-optimal stats, the amount of percent difference you see in your DPS is not going to be very large, right? All right, so that's kind of like the build setup, gear, all that kind of thing. Let's talk about the rotation. So what's the idea? What's the idea behind two-hander Obliteration? Where does your damage come from, and how do we optimize that source of damage? And the absolute majority comes from Obliterate, right? It's Killing Machine Obliterate, where you can cleave up to 3 targets. You know, perfect scenario. All cooldowns running, everything, you know, buffing yourself, that kind of thing. We're looking at getting 350k Obliterate crits. At least that's what I can achieve with my current gear. Alright, times that by 3, that's more than 1 million damage in a single GCD. And that should, you know, kind of give you the vibe of where the damage comes from. The overall is around 40% Obliterate. Right, that's where it comes from. Now, how do we maximize this? Well, it's all about both generating as many Killing Machine procs as possible and consuming them while you're standing in a different K. Alright, that's the whole kind of premise to dealing lots of damage. To do that, what we want is that we want to proc out Pillar Frost. Right, you do that by pressing your pillar, right? And then immediately follow up by something that generates a Killing Machine proc. This is going to be a Howling Blast with Rime, right? Glacial Advance, or Frost Strike, and you use different ones depending on the situation. We'll get into that later, right? That will generate a Killing Machine proc, but you don't want to spend that immediately. What you do is you press Deafening K. You do that after your pillar, because Deafening K only lasts for 10 seconds, pillar lasts for 12. If you were to use Deafening K before pillar, it would just run out in the middle, right? And you would lose out on potential cleaves. So you use it, the GCD, after you initiate your pillar window to maximize the overlap, right? After pillars down, after Deafening K is down, you follow up with an Obliterate, which is then buffed by Killing Machine. And after that point, it's, you know, Obliterate with Killing Machine, or if you don't have one, you generate one using either Glacial Advance, Howling Blast, or Frost Strike, depending on the situation. Alright, that's the whole premise. And if you execute that properly, your damage will be very, very high. Alright, let's talk about, you know, how does that look like in reality, right? If we initiate the pull. So, making sure that when you're in your Pillar Frost window, that you don't press anything else, mean that should come before you use it, right? If you press Remorseless Winter, or, you know, Chains of Ice, or whatever, anything in your Pillar Frost window which isn't either an Obliterate, which has been buffed by Killing Machine, or something that generates a Killing Machine proc, it means you've failed, right? Clean out all other GCDs from the Pillar window and make sure you use them before it. Okay, so this means pressing Abomination Lip, pressing Remorseless Winter, those are those primary ones, pressing Pulsar Box, all those before your Pillar Frost window. So if you look at like a generic pool, what I would do if you have everything ready, I start off by pre-channeling my Pulsar Box. I follow up with Abomination Limb, Remorseless Winter, right? Use my Power Move weapon there if I have it as well. I then use my Pillar Frost with a genuine Howling Blast. I then do Deafening K, and then I do my first Obliterate, and then I do the weaving kind of business there. We're having a look here. Juicy Obliterates. You love to see it, don't you? Alright. After that's been done, like you're outside of the pillar window, what you do is you kind of follow, just hitting Glacial Advance, you know, Howling Blast with Rime procs, you use Obliterate. If you get another Killing Machine proc, you can put down your second Deafening K window to kind of leverage that. But generally, that period, you don't do that much damage. Everything is kind of concentrated in that initial Pillar Frost kind of window burst. Alright, let's have a discussion about Howling Blast with Rime versus Glacial Advance. Because I think this is not obvious, right? When should you be prioritizing pressing Glacial Advance versus pressing a Rime proc? If you look at it from like a pure damage perspective, Howling Blast with Rime deals more damage when you're fighting less than 5 targets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Pressing Howling Blast in that instance gives you more damage per GCD, right? If there's 5 more targets, Glacial Advance will do more. However, that's not everything we need to care about. For instance, well, both of them will apply Razor Eyes, so we don't need to care about that either. Right? We have the Avalanche talent that gives you Razor Eyes through Howling Blast, and Glacial Advance just does it by default. We do need to think about some other things. So Glacial Advance will stack up your Unleashed Frenzy, so 2% strength every time up to 3. and maintaining that will be a priority. So if that buff is about to drop, you should prioritize Glacial Advance, right? When it comes to Howling Blast, like in your pillar window, it would act almost in the same manner, right? Pillar buffs your strength based on how many runes you use. So a Howling Blast in pillar will I remember this. I was like, yeah, let's go. We're going to initiate this. And then they don't pull the pack. And I'm sitting there with a puzzle box just being wasted. Hated it. Anyway, so in your pillar window, like Pillar Frost is up. Pressing Howling Blast will stack up pillar by 2% as well. Alright. So both Glacial Advance and Howling Blast kind of give you the same strength buff. So they're very similar in that regard. Furthermore, Howling Blast would also stack up your Gathering Storm, which is another benefit of it. This means that it's not a simple kind of scenario. Generally, Howling Blast will do more for you, right? It will give you a 2% stacking strength buff through pillar, right? It will generally do more damage if it's a small pool, right? And it will stack up Gathering Storm. However, Glacial Advance becomes better when you need to extend Unleash Frenzy. Then it becomes like press this button to give you a 6% strength buff, which is obviously better than 2%, right? And it also deals more damage in big pools. So no. What's the verdict? What do you do? All right. Generally, in a small pool, I prioritize Howling Blast with Rhyme Proc, right? Unless I need to stack Unleash Frenzy. In a big pool, I prioritize Glacial Advance generally. That's the kind of vibe. But again, it's tricky, right? I need to think about this more carefully because if Remorseless Winter is up, then you get high priority for Howling Blast. I'm sorry that this is kind of a bit of rambling, but it's really not a simple kind of use this in this instance, use this in the other instance. For instance, if my Remorseless Winter is up, I will probably prioritize pressing it, even if it's a big pool, just because Gathering Storm is so powerful. You know. Anyway. Other than that, there's not much to it. Cooldowns, we have Abomination Limb, just use that whenever it's up, before your pillar window. Empowering Weapon, time it with your pillar window, and that's pretty much it, The single target rotation is, pretty much the same thing, except you don't use Deafening Decay, of course, and you don't use Glacial Advance, you use Frost Strike instead. It is still worthwhile to use Glacial Advance sometimes, like when you first start stacking up those 5 stacks of Eraser Eyes, you can use Glacial Advance to do so. Furthermore, when you're outside of boss range, it's a great opportunity to use Glacial Advance to kind of get some extra damage you wouldn't have gotten anyway. Alright, I hope that made sense. Bit rambling there, discussing with Glacial Advance versus Howling Blast. The thing is, with these kind of things, they are relatively similar in DPS throughput, so it won't matter that much which one you choose. That's the general vibe. Anyway, now let's move on to the commentary of the run here. We're 30 minutes in, doing well so far. I'm sitting at 150k overall, right? And we keep doing these really nice pulls for me. We now have a puzzle box pull. Here I go in with, pressing my Abomination Limb beforehand, use my pillar, trigger my first Killing Machine, and then you do the Obliterate, and then trigger, Obliterate, trigger, Obliterate, trigger, right? Back and forth, We're optimizing the number of Killing Machine procs we get, and the number of Killing Machine procs we actually cleave with. That's the whole idea. That's where we get so much damage, right? We're sitting at, 110k overall, so it's not the best pull. I think I had some issues with my Frostman's Fury, right? I think we missed that. It should go with pillar and possible, ideally. And if you can, it should be the end of your pillar when you stacked up your strength off a lot. That's when you can get crits of like 600k if you're lucky. I think V's told me he got crits of 900k. That might have been on a boss which took extra damage, like the bird boss in Academy. Anyway, let's look at another pull, right? Start off with Remorseless Winter. We do press a pillar immediately followed by a Howling Blast, right? And then you Obliterate, right? Obliterate. If you get a natural Killing Machine proc, obliterate again if you can, right? If you get the 4-set proc where you don't consume obliterate, do it again. You don't want to overlap any kill machine procs, you want to use them. Sometimes that's not possible, right? There are instances where you will be starved on resources. Generally, if you're unlucky, right? You don't want to initiate a Pillar Frost window if you don't have the runes for it. Like, you don't want to start with 0, but you want to start with at least 2. But sometimes if you're unlucky, you will not get any procs at all from your rune generating things like rune corruption and obliteration itself, that kind of thing. And then you will sit there and be unhappy. If you end up in a scenario where you're in your Pillar Frost window, you have a killing machine proc, but you don't have the runes for it, prioritize pressing Glacial Advance. It gives you the highest probability of generating a rune to spend on the obliterate. Alright, here's a pack. We don't have any cooldowns, right? Here we're just gonna, be spamming using Glacial Advance as we can. I popped down a Death and Decay because I had a killing machine proc, so I want to leverage that. I think this ends up being a small bit of a mistake because that means that my next pillar window didn't have a Death and Decay for it. Right, I get it through halfway. We do some more cleave. Right, you see, it's all about hitting those killing machine obliterates as much as possible. Oops. Gotta be careful standing next to those ones. Anyway, time for the boss. The idea here is that we're gonna try and leverage our cleave as much as possible for when the ads spawn. So even though I have my pillar window up a bit earlier, maybe it's gonna be timing exactly here. It's 6 seconds from coming up. I'm waiting for the ad to spawn. Using my puzzle here, I'm gonna press my pillar, followed by Glacial Advance to trigger my first killing machine, and then Death and Decay. And now I'm just doing, getting 140k crits on both of them. Juicy. You can see that I'm bursting 100k. I also use my Frostman's Fury on both of them. And now I'm also setting out, who should interrupt the ad first. I won't have my pillar for the next ad, but still I'm gonna be on it, try and kill it as quickly as possible. I will probably get my pillar, halfway through. I'm gonna pop down Death and Decay anyway, so I can leverage some of that cleave. I do the first interrupt, and we can see our pillar windows coming up, so I'm gonna trigger that and hit Glacial Advance to get my first kill machine. And then I'm just doing the weave rotation here. You can see quite often I end up in a pillar window when I cannot press obliterate, right? It happens if you're unlucky. There's not that much to do about it. Sure, you could save more runes beforehand, and maybe I should do that a bit better. But in those scenarios, either if you're gonna be able to obliterate in like 0.5 seconds, I just wait, or I try and generate some runes by pressing a Glacial Advance. Alright. It is about to die. I'm gonna probably commit. I have Empowered Rune Weapon. Right. I'm waiting for the next ad to spawn just to make sure I can kill them. Right. On this boss, committing your pillar window on the ads, it's just so much better because you get like double the damage from it. Downward Death and Decay, and then we do the cleave here. Obliterate, rhyme, obliterate, Glacial Advance, obliterate, Glacial Advance. That's how we do it. And we're able to kill that very quickly. Making sure I keep my Remorse Winter on cooldown. I think I'm probably glossed over that. Remorse Winter. It is an important spell. We should use it as much as possible. Just not in your your obliteration window, sorry. Ooh. Nearly got stuck in the workbench there. You will want to extend the Gathering Storm buff. I'm not sure if you are familiar with this, but Gathering Storm is one of our talents which stacks up the damage of our Remorse Winter and also increasing its duration. If you increase the duration to such a degree that your Remorse Winter comes back off cooldown again, you can press it again. That will refresh its duration to 10 seconds, but maintain the big damage buff. Right? That is a huge DPS upgrade, and you should try to do it every time as possible, right? But it's only really feasible during Lost, especially now early in the rotation. We also have Everfrost, a debuff on the enemies, which stacks up to 10, which increases Monster's Winter damage. You should always try to extend that to have that 10 stacks at all times. And this means always pressing Monster's Winter on cooldown where possible. Alright. Sometimes it won't be possible, but generally, if you're just making sure you press Monster's Winter whenever it comes up, it's going to be fine. Right? That's the idea. We are now, soon heading to the next boss. We are almost 9 minutes, so we're going to have lots of time here to complete it. The real danger is if, the boss itself kills us. Happens quite often. It deals a lot of damage and it's difficult. Or if you wait beforehand. You can see there, we had a missed Soothe. I think he used it something else, which meant that storm just dealt so much damage to us. Jesus. Anyway, it's going to be fine. You spawn quite close to her, so no problem at all. I'm not sure if you noticed, but here's a good scenario. I've waited with my pillar until I press my Monster's Winter. That's specifically so I don't have to wait after pillar to use it. That happens sometimes. I do it if there's like 5 seconds left to use Monster's Winter. That's the threshold in a sense. Anyway, whenever I start fighting a pack, I always go in and I turn from where we came. This is because when you hit Pillar Frost, you got this whelp that comes through 40-yard range, right? And it is so easy to ninja pull it. The best kind of tip I can give you is whenever you engage a pack, go to the other side and always fade backwards. It means that you will pretty much never ninja pull something, right? But you have to actively think about it, because otherwise you're going to just ruin so many keys because you accidentally pull something that the tank didn't intend. Yeah, there we go. That wasn't me. I don't know why this happened, but the tank shield bounced to the next pack, which meant that it pulled quite quickly and we just died instantly. We were not ready to deal with that, and it's a very difficult pack to start with, so do not recommend pulling so large there. Anyway, I'm at 129k overall so far. You can see I'm dwarfing the other DPS here with my chunky obliterates. You know how it is. I'll bring up. I don't think I have it. I don't think I have the damage breakdown for this one. I will have a look. But man, obliterate can hit so damn hard. I actually. Alright, so in the description, I'll put a weak aura you guys can get. It's our Owen Wilson weak aura, or if you've seen it already, it's like when you crit, you get this wow kind of noise. But I made it so that it makes a louder noise the harder you crit. So it feels quite good when you like hitting a pack like this and it goes like wow, wow. Get it from the description, right? It's awesome. It makes me do more damage because it feels good to get that kind of audio feedback. Let's see. You can see here I made a mistake and my Monster's Winter wasn't used quickly enough, which meant I dropped the Everfrost stacks. That's sloppy. Very important to just use Monster's Winter on cooldown. It's a big upgrade. Alright, we deal with the pack. I target down the channeler. His fire thing just kind of one-shot you, so very important to prioritize it. I'm helping out with some death strikes here on the storm, just to make sure I don't die and the healer can focus on keeping the more squishy classes alive. Another pull, right? I'm going to go in. I have Obliteration Limb, going to press that. Going to press my Monster's Winter and then go into my pillar, right? And then we do the weaving business. If you have a Killing Machine proc before your pillar, I'd like to spend it first. Whew. Juicy 250k times 3 there. Anyway, spend your killing machine proc before you go into the pillar, because otherwise you will waste an opportunity to generate a killing machine proc. That's the reasoning there. We're just kind of blasting out. I'm at 260k at the moment. You just do, like with Lost, when you get PI, the fact is that you can stack up your pillar strength up so much that your Obliteration just becomes incredibly hard hitting. I'm going to commit another pillar window here just to make sure this dies. These adds that spawn, right, when he casts Tempest Storm Shield, he soaks up the shield they have and puts it on himself and then does a cast. And if you don't break the shield, you know, he will just one-shot you. That's the mechanic there. Luckily, we have, for instance, Master Spell, which allows us to just, you know, get rid of those shields immediately. You can also use Blood Elf to do it. For instance, here you can see they are purged and they immediately do a little detonation and they die. There we go. I'm not sure who does that actually. Final boss, what we're going to do here is we're going to target down the dragon. Whenever he's like close to us, we're going to make sure we're hitting him. This is because he's by far the most dangerous mob. And when you hit phase 2, when one of them reaches 50%, you want to make sure that he's the one that dies first. So the whole first phase here is kind of like guaranteeing that he's the one to hit 50% first. Because once he dies, the fight just becomes trivial. When he's alive, it's very difficult. So that's what we focus on here. So whenever he lands, I just swap to him and make sure I deal as much damage as possible. I have my puzzle box ready, but I'm going to wait to use it for when we actually need it, which is going to be in the phase 2. Right, just want to make sure we kill them as soon as possible so we don't need to deal with the dangerous mechanics. The dangerous mechanics is that flame spit, which only comes from one person in this phase, you know, gets applied to 3, which is just really, really difficult to heal up because it deals so much damage. So I'm sitting here, I have my potion, I have my puzzle, right, holding them, making sure I'm ready to use them. I also have my pillar in 10 seconds or so I'm also going to hold that, I believe. You can see that he's now at 50%, which means after his breath, I'm just going to jump away. I'm going to make sure I don't run after him immediately. What happens here is that the boss will reset aggro. And you can easily get one shot if you stand too close to him. So I wait. I use my puzzle box. I AMS this flame spit. This will immune the application, means you don't need to deal with mechanic. And I'm just now blasting them in my pillar frost window, right? Hitting both of them for 160k per crit. Using my Frostman's Fury as well. And you can see that the boss is pretty much dead. Alright, he's at 5%. We just want to kill him and then we're going to be all good. Alright, he's dead. Great, now in phase 3, where pretty much nothing happens. The main boss will hit the tank pretty hard. He will do the winds, I think, but otherwise, you know, he will do this interrupting thing. Doesn't do that much. And we're gonna end the dungeon at 150k, right? I was honestly surprised by how good Frost was here, and I've been playing Frost more and more lately because it's really fun, and it's, you know, really competitive. The one negative aspect is that it's not the best on single target, but it's kind of fine still. It depends on whether or not you have like a puzzle box and things. Anyway, leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought about this video. Are you going to try out Frost DK? Bring out the old two-hander and just obliterate your enemies? You know, I for sure am, and I'm very much enjoying it. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.